Now we will move on to our first contested state senator race, which is District 1. The candidates with us this evening include Senator Ogden Driscoll, Tony Johnson, and Judy McCullough. And here's an introductory statement from our candidates. Candidates, you have 1 minute, and let's start with Senator Ogden Driscoll.
Thank you. First, I'd like to do a big thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. And second, a huge thank you. I see Senator Hines in the back, Representative Wallace, and Greg Blickery. Campbell County's had one of the most effective legislative teams for a number of years, and I'm proud to be a part of it. A little bit about me. I'm a fifth-generation rancher in Wyoming. Got into the Senate 4 years ago, and I've been an active member in the Senate. Some of the things I've been active on since I've been there, to tell you kind of how I go about things. We've revoked warrantless searches from the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. We've passed eminent domain, protecting private property rights, helped sponsor the concealed carry law on the Second Amendments. With that, I'm telling you that I'm a person that's an action person, a good team player, and it's been a real pleasure to serve you. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to Tony Johnson. Tony?
Thank you. My name is Tony Johnson. I'm asking everybody for your vote in this upcoming election. A couple things about me is, first off, I'm not a politician. And I think that's probably one of my best qualifying attributes, because I feel it seems like the more time you spend up there, the more adverse baggage that you have to carry around. I am a business owner. I used to own the ARC Appraisal Company, and we currently own Oodles Budget Grocery here in Gillette. As a business owner, running ARC Appraisal Company, I had opportunity to work all across Campbell County, Crook, and Weston County, which many of you may not know. That is the area served by District 1. I am the only person from Campbell County that is running for this particular position, but I've had opportunity to work hand in hand with people in all three counties. I think integrity is probably the #1 issue when it comes to having good leadership, and that is something that I will bring to the table. I cannot be bought. I cannot be intimidated, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to opening remarks from Judy McCullough. Judy?
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. I'm from Moorcroft. I grew up out at Oshoto, went to high school in Campbell County, was one of Mel Lynch's kids, and I've been involved in politics since I could listen to my folks have discussions. I've testified and lobbied a great deal. I've never run for office before. I've served on the Crook County Weed and Pest Board. I've also lived in Weston County. I've kind of just been all around the county. I would love to be the senator, and I don't have much time to say, but I say much except that I would appreciate your vote, and thank you for this time.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to our first question, which is the same for all candidates. Each candidate has 1 minute to respond, and the question is, if elected, what do you hope to accomplish? And this question goes first to Tony.
Some of the things I'd like to get done is work with the other legislators up there to insulate Wyoming from the federal government overreach that we have. And I really want to work on all the, I call them symptoms that we have here in Wyoming, whether it be government overreach, overspending. But the primary, and one of the primary things I want to get to is actually restoring our founding fathers' vision for government, and that was small government and large faith. Small government and large faith is what will overcome the symptoms and attack the core of the problem that we have here. We've deviated from allowing Christ in our schools, in our governments, and I think we need to get that reinstated, because as long as we are living opposed to God's will, we'll never have His blessing upon us. And so I'd really like to see that, but in the meantime, I'm going to work on all the conservative issues one by one as they come up.
Okay. Thank you. And that same question goes to you, Judy McCullough.
Thank you. I would like to work on local control of government and solving the problem with the education and getting it back into the parents' hands and the teachers' hands. I would like to see us remove ourselves from the federal government, and we can do that if we don't take the money. They've bought a lot of power over our state by us accepting federal dollars. Worried about private property rights and water rights and the Wyoming state's rights. These are things that need to be worked on. We can't change Washington, D.C., but we can pull our state together and remove them from our state, and that's what I'd like to work on. My priorities are freedom for the people.
Thank you. And that same question goes to Senator Ogden Driscoll.
Thank you. I'd have to agree with a huge part of what Judy just said. I stand for the same, but for direct action items, one's getting Campbell County's delegation put back together really well again. We've had some losses in it. Have an effective delegation to make sure that tax revenues that come out of this county stay as much as possible in this county. Keep as much local all the way across as we can. That's not just schools. That's cities, towns, and the counties, because all of that tends to get usurped. Keep working hard on bills that roll back tough regulations and hits on small business. As a small businessman, I can tell you we've got a lot of laws out there that need some work done and some work with agencies, and that's one of the key things we do. And above all, to work hard for all of you on what you want done. That's what I've done. The bills I've presented have come from the people, and I will continue to do that. The city of Gillette can tell you, the city of Sundance, I work closely with anybody that wants to work with me, and I represent their views. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to all the candidates. Our next question will be for Judy McCullough. You have 1 minute to respond. Judy, in your questionnaire, you said you would like to end the giving of sugar plums and lollipops to special groups or citizens. What special groups and citizens do you feel are getting special treatment?
Okay, that's kind of a tough one because there's several of them. I personally feel that taxpayer funds need to go to infrastructure that benefits all the people. Anytime we start to shift funds to a group or something else that doesn't benefit all the people, such as schools and infrastructure, we have to be really careful there. We can end up giving sugar plums and giving them to people that may be well deserving of it, but it's unconstitutional.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now give the other candidates 30 seconds for a rebuttal to that response. We start with Senator Ogden Driscoll.
I actually think she made a fairly good point on it. We do. The one thing I wouldn't dispute, we don't do unconstitutional laws. We got to see that this year. And, you know, the House and the Senate, almost every single person has a copy on their desk, and the bills are all vetted. And the bills, if they're unconstitutional, will be struck down and taken out. We do that. I guess that's probably the one rebuttal I'd have is there isn't such a thing as an unconstitutional bill. You write it, and if it's unconstitutional, it'll be struck down. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And rebuttal opportunity goes to Tony Johnson.
Thank you. Funding isn't necessarily unconstitutional. That can be voted in, and there's nothing unconstitutional necessary about it, but it may not be in our best interest. And that's where you guys need to come in and let us know what is valid for your tax dollars to fund. We look at things like St. Jude's Hospital. Not $1 taxpayer money goes to that. Not $1 do the residents or the people seeking attention have to pay when they go to seek services there. And yet that is one of the premier establishments around, and not one penny is funded through us. So worthy organizations can be funded, just not necessarily through tax dollars.
Thank you. We need to move on to the next question. Goes to Senator Ogden Driscoll. You have 1 minute to respond. From the questionnaire in reference to finding solutions for Wyoming's education system, you state that we need to totally, from the ground up, reconfigure what parts should stay and which parts need to go. What parts do you feel need to stay and what needs to go?
Thank you. That's a great question. I actually enjoyed answering it. Education is at a really interesting point in Wyoming now. First time in my life I'm seeing across the board great interest in it, and we're not coming up with any grassroots solutions. I think we actually need to look at a total revamp, K through college education all the way, and we need to bring all the stakeholders to the table. That's not legislators, it's all of the people. Need to bring school administrators, parents, funders, the whole end, and look top to bottom how we can have the finest education system in the nation. We're funded very near the top. We're not getting near the top. There's only one way to do it, and that's to build a consensus. Good things that come together, a consensus. My belief is to return as much control as possible back to the local end and keep the state as far away as possible from the direct control end of it. The system we have now does not work, and I do not believe it will be fixed by legislative action. It's going to take a conglomeration of people to come up with a solution and some time. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll now give the other candidates 30 seconds for rebuttal. We will start with Tony Johnson.
Okay, I am 100% opposed to any national oversight of what we do here in Wyoming as far as our education. With only 30 seconds, I guess one of the things I'd like to see happen is a restructuring of how funding is done. The money should be almost done like one of the suggestions is a voucher system where the financing actually follows the students. So then what they can do is when the financing follows the students, they can go to whatever school they choose, be it public, private, a Christian school, and that money that was earmarked for that student will actually go to that school then. And I would like to see that put into place.
Thank you. And now we'll give Judy McCullough a chance to rebut.
Thank you. We need to get federal aid out of education so we can get control back. We need to get back to parent and teacher involvement, and one of the ways to do that is have an elected county superintendent and end the mandates and all the paperwork that requires so much staff. And we can educate children for less money if we do it Wyoming's way.
Okay. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the next question, and that question is for Tony Johnson. Tony, in your questionnaire, you referenced overspending. What do you feel the state is overspending on, and be specific, please.
Be specific. I've only got one specific that I can think of, but I know there's other areas, and the budget's huge. I'd like to go through it with a fine-tooth comb as much as possible. But one of the areas where I've seen an ever-increasing expansion is in the game and fish department. The manpower has gone up and up. Their role has been increasingly expanded, and I think that that is one area where we could probably scale things back, refocus their direction on what they used to do, and quit expanding that. And we have that same problem going on with many areas within the government. Everybody wants to justify their job, so they keep on finding a new thing to add expansion to, which requires more people, which requires more funding, and I think we just need to pull back and get back to smaller government in general.
Thank you. We'll now give the other candidates 30 seconds for rebuttal, and we'll start with Judy McCullough.
Thank you. Well, I can well imagine there's plenty of waste. I'm having to think that maybe if we go with zero budgeting instead of adding to the budget every year, but we need to get back to the basics of what government should do for people and do away with the freebies. I really believe that if we could get back to that, we would find that we could run this government far cheaper.
Thank you. And Senator Ogden Driscoll?
Thank you. I'll make just a tiny correction on Tony's right off. I'm on TRW, which is Travel, Recreation, Wildlife. Game and Fish has cut about $6 million out of their budget. Not to say it isn't fairly bloated, and they've cut a number of employees, so that end. As far as overspending, there is. It's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We spend gazillions of dollars with all kinds of different people. We do need to cut the size of our government. But above all, we need to make sure we keep our spending within our means, which is getting more and more difficult. Believe me, there'll be spending cuts coming. Coal's going down. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to closing remarks. Candidates, you have 1 minute for closing remarks or to address any topic that wasn't covered in the questioning period. And we will begin with Judy McCullough.
Thank you. I'm glad to have this opportunity and thank the League of Women Voters in Campbell County. I am very grateful that I've got this opportunity in this country to run as a free citizen for this Senate seat. One of the things that I'm going to be concerned about, besides education, is the agriculture, because one thing about it, we might run the coal miners off, or we might do this, or we might do that. But whatever we do, if we want to keep this country going, we need to have growth. And growth is in coal mining, it's in using our natural resources, and it's in any natural resources that we might use, including ranching, because this is good short grass country, and cattle are important. Feeding the country is important. And I would like to work towards keeping our freedoms so that we're free to grow as a country.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to Senator Ogden Driscoll.
Thank you. Once again, thanks to the League of Women Voters. I would like to tell you, I'll give you my word that I will do everything in my power. Campbell County and Gillette's the energy capital of the world, not of the United States, of the world. I'll do everything I can in my power to protect all of our industries so that we have tax revenues to be able to run the state in an efficient and honest fashion. It takes a lot of money to run the state. Huge parts of it come right out of this county. I will do everything in my power to make sure that Campbell County stays as the energy capital of the world, keep government regulation to a minimum, and fight the federal government to the bay at everything we can. We've worked hard on a lot of other issues, but on those issues that we can get our hands on that are state issues, I'll work my dangdest to work hard for you to keep Campbell County what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to Tony Johnson for his closing remarks.
Thank you. One of the things I just want to share with everybody, it's not in what you say. It's not even in how you say it. It really comes down to what you do. I talked about integrity earlier, and I want to share an integrity story with you guys. When I was running the ARC Appraisal Company, and we did that for about 10 years, one of the things I had on the bottom of my appraisals, right underneath our name on our title, was Jesus is Lord. I had a company that said I needed to remove that from my appraisals. And I told them I would not do that. And they said, if you do not remove that, then we can no longer use your services. And I told them, that's fine. That decision cost me $2,000 a month. I have the integrity. I totally support the Republican platform. I am pro-life. I am pro-traditional marriage, Second Amendment, Wyoming gun owners, I'm a supporter of, and I would love to be having your support back.
Thank you. This concludes the State Senate District 1 part of our primary election candidates forum. Tonight's candidates forum will air several times before the primary election on August 19th. For a complete listing of the GPA schedule, please visit their website at www.gillettewy.gov/GPA. We will take a short break whilst the candidates for State Senator 23 take their position. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.